That's wonderful. This was my 8th total solar eclipse. I've seen a bunch of other different angulars and that kind of thing. We always talk about the total solar that we see. So I've had 8 successful ones. And this was a difficult one. But before I get started, just a round of applause for my brother John. For picking up the laptop I forgot this morning. All right. Okay. So I appreciate that. So this is a rather difficult eclipse, much more difficult than 2017. And it's one that creates some apprehension because you have no clue where you're going. And you hear about people, well, we're going here, and it looks good here, let's get a hotel here, and we want to get something booked because everything's getting booked, and we're like, nah, it's too early. And I can't tell you how many emails I got from many people talking about meteorology and friends. Here it looks like it's clear, it looks like it's going to be clear here, it looks like Watertown might be good, this might be bad, you know. And I'm like, we're 2 weeks out yet, you know, it's April. Again, anything can happen. And I got meteorologists who deal with this, not me. I don't want to look at any weather reports because it's going to change. So this is an eclipse chasing event, meaning you got to get up at weird hours, you got to be driving through the night, you're going to be trying to chase the weather to try to catch the eclipse. And that's where it gets to be interesting. That next one. Isn't that gorgeous? That is a picture taken from the International Space Station. And that's looking at the shadow of the moon as it falls on the Earth during the eclipse. So that's what was happening as this thing is going across. And our concern are these clouds right in that side. You got some thin clouds in the middle. That looks like a good area to see it. Go ahead. So here's the plan. Here's the plan of attack. That week, I said about a week ahead, we'll have a good idea where we're going. We didn't. By Thursday, it was possible we could leave maybe Thursday if we had to go to Texas. If we had to go to Arkansas, that kind of thing. Thursday, we're like, Texas looks like it's the worst of all. And Texas is supposed to be the best of all. And it looks like it might be better up here. And the goal was really try to find a place that's going to be clear to see it, that's as close to home as we can. That's the goal. And Erie, Pennsylvania is not it. It's actually closer in New York than it is in Erie by several hours. So that's the path. You want to be close to the central line. That's really where you want to be because that's where the maximum eclipse is going to be. The moon is perfectly centered with the sun. If you're down here, like in Syracuse, it's going to skim, and it will be total, but it's not going to be for very long. And then that'll be done. Here it's going to be like 3 minutes, or it's going to be like, what did you say, 50 seconds? Or
that's where I was.
You were up in Watertown.
I was at 81 side.
Watertown was a good place.
Yeah,
Plattsburgh was a good place. And some other areas on this thing. But Albany, I figured would be our staging area. Because the weather on Thursday said we've got a possibility in Watertown and Plattsburgh. And my friend Gary, who's been to a lot of these eclipses with me, astronomer, said, I don't like Plattsburgh. He said, clouds seem to be moving up New York. If you get to Plattsburgh, you're stuck. You can't go east. You've got Lake Champlain you got to deal with. If we go on the other side of Lake Champlain to St. Albans in Vermont, if it gets cloudy, we can still head east. It gives us more wiggle room. So go ahead. Watertown, go ahead. Plattsburgh, and one more, St. Albans. All within 3 hours of Albany, which is a lot longer than what I wanted. I wanted an hour and a half. But looking at hotels, even coming up at Saratoga Springs, they were looking at $400 a night. And they weren't even in the path of totality. At least in Albany, we were getting normal rates for hotels. And in the path of totality, they were looking at $630 a night with a 3-day minimum. Which again is a reason I don't want to be there. What if it's cloudy there? And you're spending $2,000 for what? So you don't want to be in that path. People will really gouging prices up the way they're going to do for this. Go ahead. So, we were settled that St. Albans was going to be it. We got together Saturday night for dinner. I'm on my phone as we're eating, and I said, I got it. My astronomy professor from college, good friend, his daughter, who I know I haven't seen in decades, has a cousin who lives in St. Albans. All right? So that worked, and I talked to her, and they said, any place in St. Albans that might be good to watch the eclipse? And I said, yeah, you can watch it from our house. And I'm thinking, perfect, we got a place to go. And we were concerned that St. Albans looked really good. I thought that would be our go-to place. I also talked to Amy, who's up in Maine. And she said, if you're coming up to Maine, stop here. You can stay here. And I looked at hers and I said, your place is great. And it's perfect, but you're only going to see 97.6%. She said, you need to get into the path of totality. And she's like, I thought 97.6 would be close enough. I said, no. She said, it's going to be an hour and a half drive-in. It's going to be a lot of traffic. I said, it will be well worth it. And she is so glad she did. She's looking at other eclipses now, and that was her first. Oh my gosh, it was just amazing. Maine was completely clear. But I got to tell you, from Albany to Maine is going to be one really long drive as far as that goes. So our group was 15 people and one dog, all right? I had 4 people make some pretty smart choices on that. And again, we weren't quite sure where things were going to end up. Watertown, Albany, or heading up into St. Albans, but St. Albans looked like the better move Friday, because we stayed home Friday. We don't have to leave earlier. That's Thursday. Didn't have to leave Friday. John and Nancy decided, we'll stay in Albany with you guys, but then we'll get a place a little closer down here where they found good rates in a hotel, right?
Middlebury.
Yeah. So, Middlebury.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked, and that means they wouldn't have this far drive to go the next day, which is smart.
Oh no, we stayed in Albany.
You were staying in Albany,
Yeah,
but
we
after
did
the
Middlebury
eclipse, you don't have
after
to
the
go back to
eclipse.
Middlebury.
Right.
You don't have to go all the way back to Albany, which would be your 3-hour drive. Now, 2 other people from our group, and we're looking at Rob and Jennifer, at dinner Saturday said, we got a place up in Canada, an Airbnb that we found for a good price up there. So they were going to head up to there, and if the weather looked good, that was a really great move for them, because then they didn't have to travel far at all on eclipse day. And that really is the ideal if you can pull that off. In our group, we had some people who didn't have passports. So we couldn't do the Canada thing. We couldn't pull that off. Sunday afternoon, Gary calls me and we're in his hotel room, we're looking, and he's been on weather maps all day long because that's what he's supposed to be doing. And he says, St. Albans is horrible. I said, they'll see it in St. Albans. He said, yeah, but there's going to be too many high clouds. It's too iffy. We need to go further east. Really? So what are you looking? He said, possibly Newport, or better yet would be Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, both on the Canadian border. Newport is 4.5 hours, or 4 and 15 minutes with no traffic, normal traffic from Albany. And Pittsburgh is going to be 5 and some change, 5 hours to get to there. Or we could go up to Maine, and you're looking about 7, if you want to pull that off. But you said Pittsburgh would do. We don't have to go as far as Maine, as far as hitting that. I said, I think Derby's going to be better. It's going to be less, it'll be clear. It'll be clear enough. He said, clouds are going to move in. He said, but it'll probably be about 4 o'clock. And the eclipse is over at 4:30. Totality is done at 3:30. As long as the clouds aren't there at totality, I'm all happy. All right, a few clouds at the end and an hour less driving. Let's do it. So I was like, where do we stay? Go ahead. He gives me this Google view of the Newport Church of God in Derby. And he says, I got a lot of clear land around there, looking off of Google Earth, kind of thing. I said, they do. And he says, I'm emailing the pastor to see if it's possible. I said, give me his phone number. Let me talk to him. And I said, because if it's like our church email, I wouldn't get it for another, whatever. You got to email it to me directly. Just give me his phone number. And I called him, left a message. And that night, just as we were all going to bed, because we figured we don't know about eclipse traffic. If it's going to be 4 hours, we should probably consider it might be 8, might be double. So we're going to leave about 2:30, 3 a.m. No, I wouldn't say any later than 3 a.m. So 2:30 was it. We went to bed at 7. He gives me a call about 7 o'clock. And he said, yeah. He said, come on, if you can use our facility, that would be great. I'll have you up there. Turns out we both have a pastor friend down here in this area who actually lived up in Derby at one time, which I didn't realize until after I had gotten back. And that was kind of a neat thing. But he was very nice, very accommodating. We have a beautiful place to view it. And we were going up to the Newport Church of God. It made sense. And there's a picture of it. Lots of snow on the ground. Yeah, there was lots of snow. But it was 56 degrees. There was no snow on the roads. We brought snow shovels. We brought boots. We brought warm clothing. Look, we were prepared for anything. We didn't need them, but we had them. We had them. Yeah. So the group, 13 strong and a dog at this point. Go ahead. All setting up in our vehicles, getting our telescopes. I believe we had about 7 telescopes, camera setups to watch the eclipse. And out of our group, I think there were 6 people who hadn't seen the eclipse before out of that, and the dog. So here's our group going through. Go ahead. You know what? That was a proud moment for me. It was the first eclipse I got to see with my brother on this thing, and lovely wife, and it was just, that really made it for me. It's the people that you can share this with. It's part of what makes it so special. That's my camera right there in the front, ready to view the eclipse. Go ahead. And I had my friend Ryan fly in from Montana. He's got a passport, but he didn't think to bring it, and I didn't think to ask him to bring it because I wasn't thinking we were going to Canada. So that wasn't going to work anyway. Ryan was using another scope of mine. The other one I showed you was for wide field. This is for close up. And you got a Starlink antenna. He's got this computer in my little tent there. And he was going to live stream the entire event to 2,500 people through the Montana Learning Center. Go ahead. And my friend Dean and Brenda, and there's their dog Toby. They were just going to enjoy the eclipse. Dean has been with me on a lot of eclipse expeditions. He went to the one with me in China, England. And he was there until 2017. But they just had binoculars, and just the viewers, that's all they wanted to do. And a lot of people were using the smartphone images, which we haven't been able to do in eclipses before. There's Gary in the back, taking a look at some smartphones. He's got telescopes set up. They're all getting things together. That's part of his group from Moravian. Go ahead. And let's get to it. The eclipse. Go for it. All the astronomers, and it must seem funny to the people who've never been to an eclipse before, all get excited. So it's like we're all in the starting line, and we all want to see who sees the first bite taken out of the sun. I see it, kind of thing. I got it. And it all happens at exactly the same moment. We're all these high view things, and you can't see it through the viewers because it isn't enough yet. It's just like flat, barely flat at the one side. But once the partial begins, we're going to be here for a good hour, and it's kind of fun. We took a colander and you hold it up, just like I was telling you guys. Anybody do the colander trick here? No, it's too cloudy for that, probably. But you hold the colander up and you can get eclipses on that. But we had a really cool thing doing face painting with this, sort of. Go ahead. My friend Donna, who is my hiking club, she came up with CJ, who's in my Tai Chi club. They drove up. So She's got a face painting of some eclipses. And here's my brother John. I love this one. Nancy took that shot.
Great
Nice eclipse thing going on for that. So I like that eclipse face painting. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't get any eclipse pictures on my face, my head, but go ahead. Ryan is set to go. He's going to be doing the live stream. He's got the big battery backup in the back of the vehicle. He can do everything off the computer there. It has a solar filter on this thing. I'm looking forward to seeing this telescope for the eclipse and the images it can take. I'm using a wider field because I thought the field of view is a little small on it. But I want to see how it performs. Go ahead. I brought a radio to listen to AM. And the option here, you know, like when you remember the old AM days on the radio and you're driving at night and all of a sudden you pick up a station from way far away? Because at night it can bounce off the ionosphere and hit a farther station. That can happen during an eclipse too. So if I've got this thing tuned into some of those radio stations, I might be able to pick up Buffalo or Cleveland during the eclipse. Now there are two major problems with this. I wanted to try it. I got nothing, all right? Problem one, I wanted to record it, so I had to plug it into a little recorder, but then I couldn't hear it, which is a problem. Problem two, because you want to change stations if you can't catch something, it has to happen during totality, and it makes zero sense to listen to the radio and try to fiddle with dials during totality when you should be managing. This is fantastic. It's completely cloudy, all right? And the thing is over then, that's a good time to do it because why not? Then you can pull that off. So I did not have good success with that, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll try that in the future or not. Got wide field. The simplest setup I've ever taken to any eclipse anywhere. No wires, all battery, and I'm looking at that for Egypt in 2027. I wanted to see how well it would perform for this. This mount automatically tracks the sun. So when I turn this on, and I go get the tablet to turn on for the camera, that thing is already automatically going up and it's right on the sun. And it's there. And it's already in the image by the time the tablet boots up. And it just stays on it for a very long period of time. So we're good with that. If something went wrong with this, I can also track and take that off and put on a tripod and track it with the sun, but I don't like it as much. Little camera here is for making the composite image that was in the front of your bulletin. It's a simple DSLR camera with a solar filter, and you take pictures every 5 minutes, let it go automatically so I don't have to touch it. During totality, you take the filter off, change it to automatic exposure, takes a picture of the church and totality, and then you put the thing back for the rest of it. So all of these things required very little use and a really big pair of binoculars, all right, that I really wanted to see the eclipse through that I can't take anywhere else because I'm not driving to any more eclipses. It's heavy equipment. So that's with the sea start. That's Ryan and looking at first contact. When we start to see that tiny little light of the moon taken out there of the sun as the moon starts to move across. 2 sunspots. Did you guys see those with just your glasses? You could see them. You could see them all?
No, the binoculars.
With the camera you could, but not naked eye. It wasn't big enough for naked eye. I couldn't see naked eye. It has to, it's big, but it needs to be about twice that size, about the size of Jupiter. That's not close enough. Go ahead. So we're kind of waiting. We're doing our face painting and all this stuff as we're coming up. Go ahead. Oh, wow. Now we're getting up there. So we're about 95%. The sky is getting dark. Clouds have moved in, by the way, early. So we could see them on the horizon at 2:30. I'm like, they're coming up. Like, oh, eventually. But they moved in faster than we had liked. We had some thin clouds coming through. Go ahead. There's my picture through the small, wide field. And one of the most impressive things, everybody commented on this. That's a prominence. A prominence is gases that are extruding out from the sun. They're being blasted away from the sun. Here's another nice one right off the side, one down there. Prominences are gorgeous. And that one in the bottom was so bright you could see that with just your eye. And it's a very beautiful fluorescent red color, which is what you're looking at for that. To give you an idea of size, measure this thing up. That's about 4 Earth diameters out. Give you an idea of how big that is. This is the atmosphere of the sun. That's our corona going around it. Go ahead.
Wow.
And there's the inner and outer corona. And I thank you for that. Ooh, I appreciate that because I'm not happy with that at all. This is not what I wanted. And I'm thinking, this telescope's useless. It is small, but it's really compact. I'm looking for the big, beautiful streamers that are rolling out, especially right where that dark area is. That's coming down from there. And we have the prominence here, so that should be a good streamer. I'm not getting that. But I feel better about it because after thinking about it, you see something at the top. See it kind of coming up a little bit. That's due to clouds. That's not necessarily the camera, that's due to clouds. We had high cirrus clouds. And that's going to fuzz this up a bit. That's part of the problem with it. But that's the atmosphere of the sun as the thing goes around. The diamond ring, fourth contact, it happened right next to that prominence, which was way cool. That was really, really beautiful to see. This is my 8th eclipse. I got 3 cameras that take care of themselves. Totality, I have to take pictures on my own with the small one, and just 1 picture with the other. So when it happened, I took the lens cap off of the composite and took my picture, which should have been the last thing I'd done, or sometime in the middle. And then I went to the tablet and I started to take pictures, but I could not see the sun. It took me a minute to figure out I left the lens cap on. First time I've ever done that. I thought, oh, seriously, I take that off. Now I'm getting out of first and getting this thing and changing shutters. And, come on, give me something, give me something, give me something. I only got a minute and a half to take images at this point. And I went to the binoculars at one point to look through, and it was black. I'm thinking, it's off the sun because they don't track. I don't have time looking around. I don't have time. I'm back to this. And after we got to the end, I'm like, I didn't take the lenses off the binoculars either. So it probably was close in there. I'm thinking, oh, I missed it. That was the whole thing I wanted with the binoculars. I talked to Ryan, and Ryan said, we got the totality in. He said, it was just black. I couldn't get the thing to work. And he said, then I realized I left the lens cap on afterwards. I'm thinking, you live streamed. You live streamed a black image during totality, which is what everybody wants to see. And it just went to black. It got to that thin crest and then went black. And he said, then he heard me talking. He said, but I'm not sure it was suitable for the airwaves. He said, I kind of gave up and just enjoyed the eclipse rather than trying to mess with it. I'm thinking, oh gosh.
But it wasn't actually the lens cap you left on. It was the solar filter.
It was a solar filter. The solar filter was left on, yeah. Go ahead. Here's Gary's shot. Gary had a DSLR and a much bigger telescope. We can start to see it's flipped. That should be over on that side for us. So his design is flipped side to side. That's still on the bottom. That's got to be flipped over. But he's got some more prominences off the side. Go ahead. And that's Gary's image of the corona. And you can see some streamers, especially out the top. But, I'm looking at this and I felt so good about this picture. I'm like, if his looks that bad, I'm really happy with mine. All right. Then I'm not that upset about the dwarf anymore, the tiny little telescope, because his should show nice streamers, but again, it was the clouds. The clouds were messing it up. Go ahead. And again, you can see some streamers coming through down there in the bottom and up, but it's tough. And then the other thing you have to notice is how white it is in here. You can't see the prominences. A camera only can pick one exposure. I either want to overexpose it to try to catch that or underexpose it to get the prominences, but your eye sees all of it. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Your eye captures every part of it, and it's more gorgeous than any picture is ever going to make it look. As beautiful as they are. During totality, that's Gary's picture. We see the sun up there, and that little white dot there is Venus. That's Venus. You can see the clouds starting to move in, but we had no problem with the totality. I also want you to look along the horizon, because we had talked about it being like a permanent sunrise, sunset. We are in the shadow of the moon. Ryan's picture shows that very nicely. And again, there's Venus. Jupiter was way up on the other side. He's in the ceiling in this part, just barely. And the sunset, I like the church steeple being in there. That was kind of a nice shot. So we may have gotten black for totality and live stream, but took some nice pics this way. Go ahead. This is part of Ryan's thing. Even with the solar filter on at the end,
Wow.
he started to get some stuff. And I really like these. This is a nice shot. This is with the filter on at the end. We have the prominence. We have the first start of the sun coming up. But do you see these little dots all along in here? This gap, especially right in there, right? We call those Bailey's beads. Bailey was a guy who figured out, oh my gosh, you see the little gaps that you have there? That's the limb of the moon. When it gets to the sunlight is shooting out between mountains. And that's what you're seeing. So the dark areas are where mountains are sticking up on the moon. And the sunlight hasn't gone through that. So we have a brief second or so of Bailey's beads that we can see. And he caught them really rather nicely on that. Go ahead. And after that, everybody's like, wow. And then all the astronomers are going to sit there for another hour and a half and, yeah, keep going. Next, and next. And just kind of waiting for the thing to end with its fullest. And the other six are like, well, it's really great now looking. And they're taking pictures and talking and being patient and all that good stuff. Go ahead. That's the composite that was on your bulletin. And those are the images taken with the DSLR. This is the first time I've ever tried this technique. I've seen it, I've liked it, and I thought, I want to try it. It's problematic when you're processing the whole thing, putting it all together. That's where the problem comes in. Taking the picture, 5-minute exposures all the way through took about 3 hours, and probably processing took 3.5. Just trying to get things together and make it right. Venus, right there next to the steeple. I shot this from the back of the church. I wanted to try to get the cross showing up on the steeple. And I would have preferred to have that over the cross, but to do that, the cross would have been straight on. You wouldn't be able to see it, just the angle. So, I'm pleased the way that came out. Go ahead. So, the goal after the eclipse is to hang out a while because it's going to be a mess. Basically, we try to leave by 9, but we're 4.5 hours away now. So you're looking at 1, 2 getting back. And after the eclipse, people are kind of left up to what they want to do. CJ from my Tai Chi class said, I got us dinner reservations for 13 people over at this place that's having a buffet, special buffet, which is perfect because you don't have to order, wait for orders and cooking and that kind of thing. You can be in there, just go up, grab your stuff, and do your thing. Dean and Brenda decided to go back with Alan right after fourth contact. So they packed up the dog and they took off. And that was about, about 5 o'clock, I would say. We waited for Gary and his group to pack up, and then we all went out to the buffet, which was at 7. And when we got there, Gary and the group said, yeah, we're going to go back. We're not going to stick for dinner, we're just going to go back. So bunch of us went in, and another 4 of them took off, and that would have been about 7 o'clock. We had a nice meal. I had to drive back. I had one plate. I didn't go back for seconds. I didn't want dessert. Because I'm thinking, if I got to drive 4.5 hours to get back, I need to eat on the way back. And thank you for the snacks, by the way. That was kind of good. So I need to eat and drink in the car to stay awake and be able to do this, because at this point, by the time I get back, if we leave at 8, we're getting back about 12:30 with normal traffic, basically, which means I will have been up for about 24 hours without any sleep. Ryan couldn't sleep earlier, so he was up. He'd been up for 25. Meal was great. Go ahead. This is not from that day. This is from some other day, all right? But this is what they were trying to avoid. They said in the interstate, you are not allowed to pull over in the interstate to watch the eclipse. You will be fined, we will be towed, we will burn your car, whatever they're going to do. We do not want you parking on the side of the road during the eclipse. We know you're stuck in traffic. Don't do it, all right? This is what they were trying to avoid. But there you go. That's the kind of traffic we're looking at.
Oh my gosh.
Now, we saw that kind of traffic, but at night. Go ahead. That's the traffic we had going up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking everybody in the 13 people are going to have my hide by the time we get up there. It only took us 4.5 hours to get there. We had to leave at 3 in the morning.
That was fine.
And it's like,
No, that's
okay. Look, we've avoided the traffic. We're here. We can all relax now. We're going to see the eclipse. That's the important thing. Focus on that, all right? You got to focus on that part. There was zero traffic going up. It was not an issue at that time of night. Now we're too excited to sleep anyway. Go ahead. This was the traffic I took from the car on the way home the next day at noon. There was still traffic. Heading back, wow, Google Maps does such a good job. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're going to run the traffic, avoid traffic, make a right here, do this, make a left here. I was on a dirt road for a while, okay? It had me on a dirt road. And then we got to this thing, you saw the long line of traffic, and we're looking down there, we don't have to get into that. It says, we're all heading south, away from the eclipse. It says, go north for 20 miles. I'm thinking, all right, I'll head north for 20 miles. And I'm looking at how the miles to your destination. In 20 miles heading north, we were 4 miles closer to home, kind of thing. And then it had us do a loop down this way and over and back this way, and then try to. We got into some traffic that kind of traffic, only about 6 miles, 7 miles right before we got into Albany. But here was the kicker. Dean, who left at 5, got in at 11:30. They did not stop for dinner. We got in at 12:30, and we left at like 8. Okay? And Gary, who left at 7, got in at 12:30. Okay, so, it was the right move, and staying up there later is better than earlier on this kind of thing, but we're all tired, we want to get home, and we want to do that. So, that's it. Next eclipse. Go ahead. Perseid meteor shower in 2026. The best bet is in Spain, down in here between Barcelona and Madrid. Gonna miss both, but right off in there. But it's really gonna be in the water. Put your fist out. It's gonna be about half a fist up above the ocean. It's only 4 degrees of totality. The odds of clouds are pretty strong, and they're saying your best chance is right here. It's gonna be about 30% clouds, is what we're predicting. You want Iceland or Greenland, you're looking at about 99% clouds. So that one may work. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. Go ahead. This is a definite. I have already booked some stuff on this one. Gary and I have booked a thing on August 2nd, 2027 to watch this in Luxor, Egypt. And we're going to take a Nile cruise, 19 days, 24 stops. I hope they're allowing people in the pyramids. I've always wanted to do that. and be able to capture this from Luxor. And it's going to be 6 minutes and 22 seconds long. It's the longest one for the rest of this century. So it's really going to be a gorgeous one. And next, back to Australia. The one in Australia is very interesting and easy to get to because it goes right over Sydney. I can't even imagine what they're going to charge you for a hotel in Sydney. I've been in Sydney. I want to see it up there, Halls Creek area, where I haven't been. And I want to explore that area. And I think the move is to get an Airbnb, stay for a week, do southern sky observing with the telescopes like I did last time. Also watch the eclipse, and if it's cloudy that day, we'll just take the car and drive somewhere. I think that would be the move for that one. So there you have it. You got some new stuff ahead. Now, New Zealand looks kind of nice. I've been on the Southern Island. That would be fun too. Questions? Anything? Al, you were in Totality. Anybody else go up to Totality? And you got to see it from Watertown.
Just south of Watertown, at a state park.
Watertown was making our heart beat a little too strong in that. We're like, yeah, the clouds are, that's rough.
We're right on the eastern coast of Lake Ontario, so in front of us was just the lake. And it was something. It didn't get completely dark until right at Totality. And then it got really, really dark, really quiet, calm. As I was mentioning before, the birds were flying in one direction. At Totality, everything stopped. You could hear a pin drop. And then on the other side, the birds started all flying the other direction. Strangest thing we've ever seen, but it was quite something to be right in the middle of Totality.
And we didn't have any birds up there before we were at it all. Did you see it?
I didn't know.
It wasn't just me not looking for birds.
No.
I didn't
Yeah,
see
it
birds.
was quiet.
We heard them first.
It was quiet, yeah.
I mean, the only noise we heard was when it hit Totality and like cheering all over. The
Oh yeah,
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 that
screaming
was
and shouting,
amazing.
yeah, just the joyous time. And no birds, no moose. I mean, there was nothing. It was just nothing for us. But how was your traffic?
Well, we drove to Syracuse. I'm from Syracuse, so we went up there to visit my family. But from Syracuse to Watertown, there's really nothing up there. There's nothing, and no one. Very few people live up there. That's in the snow belt of upstate New York. And we took a dry run up there the day before, and there was nothing. We drove by a lot of farmland, a lot of people out, and I honestly, I don't think they even knew what was going on. But
Were there a lot of people there?
the day, not really. They were limiting the cars, I think, to 140. Then they were going to close the state park, and they did reach that 140, but it wasn't crowded. It really wasn't. The beach, there was plenty of room on the beach to sit, throw a towel and some chairs. We actually sat in the parking lot and put our chairs in front of our car and watched it from the parking lot, because if you were on the beach, you were looking at the sun this way. From the parking lot, it was right in front of you. So, but no, it wasn't really crowded. There was really no traffic going up, and there was just a little bit of traffic going back to the Syracuse.
The advantage for you is that everybody thought Watertown would be clouded out, so nobody's going. You know, for the most part.
Or where's Watertown? Well, yeah.
Right.
It was a good place to go. And it clouded up a
And
little
I'm
bit.
glad that, you know, and you have those areas where the clouds will open up, and then you have a cloud sitting there in the wrong 3.5 minutes, you know, it's just going to ruin your day. But Erie was clear, Buffalo was not. They did get to see it through clouds, and Ohio opened up beautifully. So Ohio really did. So Cleveland saw it, and further west on that. Big question, yeah.
Well, so later this year, there's an annular eclipse, I think in October. So what does that mean?
Annular eclipse means that the moon is sometimes closer to you and sometimes further away from the Earth, okay? Its size changes. You've heard of supermoon, right? A supermoon is a full moon that's as close to the Earth as it can get. And if you take it to the full moon that's as far away as you can get, it's only a 14% difference in size. It's not much. As a matter of fact, you will notice if I put them next to each other on a slide. Like, oh wow, the moon's bigger. Outside you'd never notice because you have nothing to compare it to. In other words, you only see the full moon once a month, right? then no, it's a full moon, kind of thing. So when you have a full moon that is going to be further back as far away as it can get, it will not cover the disk of the sun. And you'll have this little ring of light going around it because the moon is smaller than the sun. Normal size, it'll cover it. Big size, like in Egypt, it's going to be there for a while, which will make it really nice. That's your 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Here's your 3 minutes, and this is just going to be annular. It'll be smaller. So there's no safe time to watch it during an annular eclipse. It's not as exciting, but it's really cool to see, definitely.
Kudos to the church where they allowed us to camp out in the parking lot. Not only did they open the church up for facilities for us to use, but, I talked to the church administrator, just inquiring about the parking lot lights, were they set on a timer? Do they go off when a solar cell function?
Yeah.
And she had her husband come down and dismantle the parking lot lights while we were there. So they would not have gone off during the eclipse, which would have kind of really dampened the effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were wonderful.
And for your first eclipse, any thoughts that you want to share?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, I'm glad I could share it with you because I know this to be your passion. With the amount of driving that we did or anticipated in the hotels and everything else, I think we crammed 22 hours of driving into a couple days. It was tiring. And his friend,
Exhilarating.
Gary says to me, his friend, he said, "So you're telling me the only reason you came up here to experience this was because of Peter?" I looked at him and I said, "No offense." I said, we all have different passions and stuff. I said, but this was something I wanted to experience with him, and it was awesome, and I'm really glad that I did that. I said, let me ask you something. Would you have gone to an NFL draft by yourself if it wasn't for somebody who felt passionate about that? And he goes, good point.
It was amazing.
I mean, you can talk about what it's like, but to actually watch it and experience it, it looks so different. And,
It's the fastest 3 minutes and 20 seconds in my life. I mean, because you're trying to soak it all in, and all of a sudden.
How long was your vows?
Yeah.
And then the diamond ring effect, it was like, whoa! Everything was faster than I thought.
Oh, it's the fastest 3 minutes and 30
I
seconds.
know. I didn't expect that. The other thing that really struck me, right when I went to totality, was the shadows and the lighting seemed to be not just get dark like you get at dusk. It almost seemed like a different color.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the 360-degree periphery sunsets, effect.
Yeah.
It was.
And the temperature change.
Yeah.
That was. We were pulling out our downhill coats.
Probably about 10 degrees at least.
At least, I'd say.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I mean, if you're gonna put all that effort into it, I'm glad we got clear skies for it.
Well, that's our. We just keep driving till we do. I mean, that's the part of the problem.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't have to go to Texas.
Maybe would have been next. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.